Hello and welcome to yet another wartime audio review that I'm making to distract myself a little bit while I have some spare time. And today I want to talk about yet another affordable model. Actually, I'm not trying to select just affordable models on purpose. I just have a bunch of them waiting for their queue for quite long, so I want to clean up my queue. And I have a few more expensive and more audiophilic models waiting for them. But today we'll talk about Astrotec Vesna. I'm not sure about the accent in this word, because actually it's a Slavic word for spring. But for example, in Ukrainian we call this time of year Vesna. And on the Balkanian countries they call it Vesna. And actually Vesna is also a popular woman name in their countries. So I prefer to call them Vesna, and it's $20 in-ear monitors, single dynamic driver. You can get them for $20. I will add links in the description, of course, and they also have a Vesna Evo. If I understood right, it's just a version with replaceable cables with 2-pin sockets. They cost $300, and they definitely try to deliver a lot of value. They use some liquid crystal polymer diaphragm, so advanced drivers, promising a good sound. So CCAW coil, you can get it with microphone or without, so a lot of stuff. You can see kind of frequency response here, but on the back side the most interesting part is technical specifications. 1 milliwatt of recommended power, 30 ohms of impedance, maximum input it's 3 milliwatts. So as you can see, they are pretty sensitive, and the package is simple but looks nice, so it's expectable for the affordable model. Inside we're getting the accessory set, so let's pull that out. Here are earphones themselves. This version is without replaceable cables, some kind of warranty card and manual, and here is storage pouch, pretty nice one for this price, and extra set of accessories. So you'll get a pretty unexpected accessory in this set. Let me tear it open. You'll get 2 additional pair of tips and actually USB Type-C digital to analog converter for your smartphones. Actually a pretty good addition, taking into account that Astrotec decided to make this model slightly mid-centric and focused on the resolution. So some digital to analog converters they put in the accessory set is a nice thing to unveil their full potential. In terms of design and build quality, you can see that this earphones is absolutely classically built, barrel-like shells with some kind of plus on the top side. Probably it's for the screwdriver, so you install it into ear and then use screwdriver to put them deeper. Of course, I'm kidding. Nice wearing comfort, of course, such shape and combined with small shells give you opportunity to wear it cable down, or you can wear them over the ear this way. And actually I prefer over the ear wearing, because first they're fitting slightly deeper, and second it reduces microphonic a little bit, because cable here is nice but it has a slight microphonic. Spouts are above average in terms of length, and actually you can achieve a pretty good sound isolation, slightly above average. And if you want even higher sound isolation, you can get double flange tips, for example, for them, and insert them deeper into ear, so you can get a pretty decent passive sound isolation. There is a lip for holding the tips, and protective grill of course is present here, so all that parts that I'm always looking at are present here. Actually tips are holding really well, so here they are. Build quality is nice, cable is not replaceable, but in this price range I think it's okay. You can see that they added strange reliefs, And the cable itself looks pretty good. It's actually average in terms of softness, not super soft, but definitely not sturdy one. Nicely braided inside, there is a slight microphonic effect present, but over the ear wearing reduces it pretty well, so for me it's not an issue. Here is the splitter with chin slider, and after the splitter it goes down to the regular 3.5mm jack. So to summarize this part, as you can see, for this price, I think everything is pretty good. And of course about the sound, I gave them about 48 hours of burn-in and there were no big changes in sound representation. But what is really important here is to find the proper seal, because they are super sensitive to fit and depth of insertion. And actually, if you read their reviews, for example, on Head-Fi or all over the internet, you can read the really different opinions. Some say that they are bass light, some say they are bright, others say they are slightly warm, but truth is that this model is really balanced. But to achieve this balanced representation, of course, you need to get a proper fit and the tips. So I'm using over-the-ear wearing, and I'm using medium tips, trying to achieve the deep insertion. So the deeper you insert them, you'll get more low frequencies. And it's kind of important because Astrotec decided not to make a typical bass bump in this model. They probably wanted to make model affordable, but not targeted to mass market, but more targeted for those who like well, maybe it's not a proper way to call this representation as audiophiliac, but you know, it's leaning towards that side. They are trying to boost resolution, micro contrast and detailization. Not too much, of course they not sound too sharp or analytical, but they don't have that additional weight on low frequencies. But at the same time, you know, I am not suffering from the lacking of low frequencies. For me, in terms of quantity, it's more than enough. Maybe on some rare electronic music tracks I'm lacking a bit of additional meat, but it's really rare, at least for me. But of course tastes differ, and if you used to like more meaty and weighty representation, more warmer sound, you definitely can get for example above mentioned Fios GH3 or whatever they were called. But here what I like is actually a quality, because the resolution is nice. Of course, not stellar, don't expect some superb results, but for $20 resolution is really good, as well as impact and depth and control. They even trying to slightly highlight that small nuances and overtones to sound more realistically. They don't succeed perfectly here, but you know, for $20 I don't feel like they worth some nitpicking or something like that. They are good with acoustic instruments like double bass, some drums that have deep punch or kick. But at the same time, I kinda enjoy them, for example, with Massive Attack or with tracks that I wanted to use today as an example. It's Daft Punk, Lose Yourself to Dance. I kinda like amount of low frequencies they have. I like that punch, I like that impact, so even with electronic music for me it's enough. But still I want to highlight that it's a matter of preferences. Mids is probably the strongest part of these earphones. They have a really good balance between resolution and naturalness. Of course, it's not the model for those who like comfortable, relaxed mids, for those who want boosted or highlighted macro dynamics, for those who want some forgiving sound. It's not a model. They slightly focusing micro contrast, slightly highlighting small details, but not overdoing that, of course. And in exchange, they give you nice sound of realism. They give you above average sound stage, both in width and in depth. Width is slightly better than depth, but still all that 3D stuff is rendered and sounds nicely. Pretty good and enjoyable vocals. Of course, they're lacking a bit of resolution of balanced armatures, but for the dynamic drivers they are pretty nice. Even with tracks that filled with different instruments and with interesting samples like Enigma's Return to Innocence actually a great band. I think a lot of people all over the earth should say thank you to this group for being born at all. And they have that great vocal sample. If you haven't heard the history where this sample is taken from, really recommend you going to Wikipedia or somewhere else where this story is described. Really interesting. And gorgeous music, and these earphones play it nicely thanks to nice resolution and pretty good well-built stage. Lower treble is slightly accented, so if you're sensitive to the treble area, probably it's better to try this model before buying, but at the same time Astrotec decided not to do super extended treble, so upper treble is rolled off, and because of that they're lacking a bit of that audiophilic layering, they're lacking a bit of sparkle, but basic overtones they play nicely and they don't sound too sharp or too bright for me. But if you're sensitive, keep that in mind. And in general it's a pretty good basic dynamic driver treble, clean, crisp, slightly on the slower in terms of attacks and decays, but still balancing overall representation fairly well. And as an example, another musical masterpiece. Of course, it requires much more expensive earphones to show the full potential, but still it's a pretty pleasantly sounding track on these earphones. It's Steven Wilson's Watchmaker, lot of percussions, guitars, nicely recorded, and all that stuff goes to the treble area with tons of overtones. They lacking a bit of airiness, but still play this part really well. In terms of pairing, I think it's pretty simple. Astrotec took care about that, and if you want to use them with smartphone, you have a pretty decent solution. Or you can use some nice upper entry level player like Heidi's AP80 for example, or something like that, or some other digital to analog converter you can also use to show their full potential. Speaking about the comparisons, just one model that I already mentioned a few times, Fuse GH3, but they are like polar opposites. Fuse decided to make warmer, more massive model for those who like more comfortable representation, while Astrotec is slightly more for those who want resolution and so on. Of course, don't expect like super stellar sound, some giant killers, but to summarize everything, for $20 I was really impressed and I kinda like this model. So my recommendations if you're looking for something in this segment. Thank you for listening, thank you for your attention, and of course have a great day.